How are you doing, Ben?
How am I doing? I'm wonderful. It's Tuesday, another
Good.
day of spectacular choices. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So
It's such a pleasure to be here, Claire. Thank you.
I'm just eating chocolate cake because my neighbour left chocolate cake on my doorstep. So that's what I'm having for breakfast today. So,
Mm.
so your Shape Your Destiny community on Facebook.
Yes.
How did you come to start that, and where were you in your life to become interested in personal development?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking. Firstly, I just want to say how grateful I'm to be here with everybody, to get the opportunity to share some of my journey to this point. Um, some insights perhaps that I've learned along the way, and really hoping that somebody out there today gets something from this collection of stories and experiences that
Yes.
have brought me to where I am today. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on outside at the moment, and one of the one of the major insights in my journey has been the power of focus
Hmm.
and how focus creates our reality. Um, when I first started on this journey, Claire, it wasn't how it is now
Yeah.
in terms of my daily life. Um, I would say that I started personal development 12 years ago, maybe
Hmm.
even longer, with my first book. The first book that I ever read was The Science of Getting Rich.
Hmm.
More about that in a moment. But what I discovered during that time was the power of our minds and the power of our own ability to create our daily experience of life. I didn't
Yeah.
actually know back then that it would bring me to the point where we're at now, where I'm able to share some of these experiences and hopefully give somebody something that they currently don't have within their inventory of thoughts or tools or strategies for dealing with everyday life. And
Hmm.
everyday life, of course, at the moment has changed dramatically. So these tools and the way that we think has become more important now more than ever. I'm
Yeah.
sure you'd agree with that, Claire, right? That it's, the external circumstances that we're facing right now are rather easy to get involved in. And
Yeah.
my journey from where I
Mm.
was 12 years ago to where I am now, but not just 12 years ago, my entire life journey has brought me to some situations that people would class as adversity. They would class them as difficult times, or they would class them as major events in my life, just like everybody else has had, by the way. And while I'm
Yeah.
talking about this, I just want to make this clear that what I'm saying and what I'm going to share with people is by no means taking away from the difficult times that some people are having right now out there. You know,
Absolutely.
there's key workers, there's staff, there's people in hospitals, there's families that are affected. And I don't want to come across as if I'm talking about this as if it's a cure-all remedy for every situation that goes on in life, because we do go through difficult times, all of us.
Yeah.
One of the things that in my journey I've discovered is how to navigate those difficult times and
Hmm.
then come through those difficult times with an empowering meaning and a focus that uses those experiences to actually bring something valuable to the world and to other people.
Yeah.
So, Shape Your Destiny, which is a community, a personal development community that is revolving around coaching and health, wealth, and relationships, but mostly coaching around mindset and the way that we show up in life, the way that we experience our life, and how we create our daily experience.
Hmm.
This is what Shape Your Destiny is about. Now, if you'd have asked me when I was in school as a 5-year-old child, um, and going through the daily playtime at school, and the teachers come in and they say, "What do you want to be when you're older?" I'd
Mm.
have never chosen to have created a community for personal development.
Yeah.
or as a coach. I'd have never chosen that. It was always doctor, astronaut, policeman, something of high responsibility that we now see are some of the most important tasks
Yeah.
in our daily lives. We're now seeing that for sure. Let's
Yeah.
just pay gratitude to the emergency services because they do a phenomenal job. And
Absolutely.
I was always a person like that. Deep within that calling was a desire to serve people.
Yeah.
And this desire was something that was born out of a childhood experience. And we've all had childhood experiences. And my particular childhood experience left me with a questioning mind, and a questioning mind which was constantly wondering why things had happened to me in that way, or why they'd happened to my family. It was a difficult time, but also what it gifted me with was the ability to empathize with people and the challenges that they're going through. Now, just fast forward 10 years, 20 years even, 27 years old, I just met a woman that I was falling deeply in love with. I'd always wanted to be in a family, and she had 3 children. I had my own son. And I was literally so inspired to do whatever it took to be with this woman. And that involved me going out there into the world and chasing what some people class as success.
Yeah.
The money, the cars, the watches, the status. It wasn't like that when I started. It was from love. But eventually what happened is I got to a point where I was being drawn and called by the material aspects of life. And throughout that process, I learned some valuable lessons that will stay with me for the rest of my life. Because when I eventually got to the top of the mountain, and I was at the pinnacle of the mountain, and I was looking down, I was like, I've made it. I've got to where I want to be. I wanted to be a millionaire. I did that within 4 years. In terms of the money and the cash that I was generating, I managed to do that very quickly. And as I stood on the top of the mountain with that, and things were changing for me in my life, I was going to go through some difficult challenges following. And some of the challenges that I faced were tremendously difficult in terms of I had to go through this new awareness of starting to realize what was important. And it was at that time where things started to change for me. I broke up in the relationship. The money was going. I was starting to realize that everything that I thought was important at the time was no longer important.
Yeah.
And I found myself one day sat there looking at my past and looking at the stuff that was going on for me now. I now found myself in a situation where I was no longer successful in my own eyes. I no longer had the material things that I once thought was valuable. And I remember sitting there in my house one day, looking in the mirror and literally questioning what my life was all about. And it was there at that point that things changed for me. Because at that point, I started to realize that I still had so much to learn. And what I thought I knew about the world, what I thought I knew was important, what I thought I knew was success, I rapidly realized it wasn't success. And one of those days I was looking in the mirror and I literally was like, what is my life all about? What am I doing on this earth? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And in that moment, when I was overwhelmed, I was emotional because things had become so difficult for me. I was in a time where I felt like I didn't have any support or any money. I felt like I didn't have anybody around me that was thinking the same as me. I felt like there wasn't many people who were looking for progressive attitudes to a way of living positively. And I was trying to remain positive in some difficult circumstances. I was on the verge of bankruptcy. I'd broken up with my girlfriend. I was going through some difficult challenges with my son at the time. I just decided previously 6 months with my ex-girlfriend to go along and see somebody called Tony Robbins. Now, I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with Tony Robbins. Are you familiar with Tony Robbins, Claire?
A little bit. Because actually that's where we met. Yeah, that is quite a big thing, going to decide to go and see him. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a massive decision. And
Yeah.
it was a decision that I really didn't know what I was doing when I made that decision. I had a conversation with my girlfriend, and because I was going through what some people would describe as depression,
Mm-hmm.
and I was going through the idea that the world that I was currently living in didn't meet my expectations of the worldview that I had. So
Yeah.
I was all about the success. I was all about the money. I was all about driving forwards and being motivated. And at that time, I was so tired and I was so down about the way that things appeared to be and the results that I was getting. I was down about myself. I didn't feel good about myself at all. I was blaming myself for a lot of the challenges that I'd had, but I was also looking for answers.
Mm-hmm.
And my girlfriend was very much into personal development. She had lots of books on her shelf, books ranging from Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within. She had Man's Search for Meaning. She had Brené Brown. She had Louise Hay. And I'm looking at these books and I'm like, what are all these books about? Why does she have all of these books, And really dismissive. I was really skeptical about personal development and coaching. She also had like things on the wall everywhere you went around the house, things like wake up with a grateful attitude. And, as I was talking to you before, there's one here by Mandy Hale, which is keep your head up, your heart open, stay on a positive path, and the right people will come along and join you on it.
Mm-hmm.
One of my own personal favorites is worrying is silly. It's like walking around with an umbrella waiting for it to rain. And these are all around the house. And I'm like, why does she have all of these things around the house? And one day we were in a massive argument. I was so annoyed with myself at that time. And I felt so low about myself that I was just looking for arguments with everybody I could possibly argue with for a sense of feeling important.
Yeah.
And one day we're in the car and she's got this audio on. And the audio was this American guy talking. And I recognized the guy's voice from a film called Shallow Hal. I don't know if you've seen that film, Claire. Have you seen that film?
I haven't. I need to watch this.
But Tony's in that film, and I remember his voice, and I'm listening to it, and I'm recognizing it. It's this giant American guy with a big smile. And I remember the scene from the film where Tony, he's in a conference, one of his events, which we went to, and he is talking to Shallow Hal about the way that he sees the world. And he has a conversation with Tony, and Tony instantaneously suggests to him something that changes his entire perception of the reality that he's currently living in. And I was like totally intrigued by that at the time. I remember watching it. But as I'm listening to this in the car that day, I'm angry and I'm frustrated. I'm annoyed. Life isn't going the way that I want it to go. And I'm allowed to be pissed off. Yeah, I'm allowed to be pissed off and I'm allowed to take that out on anybody because that is the model of the world that I've got. I'm so important in this world. And as I listen and she's listening and she's smiling because I'm listening, I'm like, I turn to her and excuse me because it's early. I know it's Tuesday and it's early and I don't want to offend anybody. But I turned to her and I went, who is this effing idiot? Turn this shit off. I don't want to listen to this. Yeah. And she looked at me and we had a blazing row.
Of course. That was the idea.
Yeah, we had this blazing row and it was like, oh no, I've messed up. What can I do to make it better? Yeah. So I went online and I Googled Tony Robbins and I'm thinking, how can I make this up to her that I've upset her? And obviously, this is the way that I was operating at the time. I saw these tickets online. I'm like, I'm going to buy these tickets and I'm going to give these tickets as a present. And we'll go to Tony Robbins together. We'll sit on the front row and we'll have this experience together. And she'll love me more than ever. And this will be amazing. Right. And I bought the tickets. I took what money I had left over from some of the situations that I was going through, and I made a commitment that I was going to go and see Tony, and we were going to work out our problems, and we were going to have the best relationship ever, and it was going to be so amazing, and life was going to be fantastic because Tony, she loved Tony, and if she loved Tony, Tony was the man to solve all my problems. That's how I saw it. And I was like, great, we're going to this event. And on the first day I got to the event, I'm sat there on the front row and I'm looking at this event with thousands of people around me, sitting there all smiling and laughing and joking and being playful. And I'm like, what on earth have I got myself in for here? And for
That's
5 days.
What I felt. Exactly. What the hell am I doing? I've paid all this money to jump up and down in a seat.
Indeed. What on earth am I doing here right now in this moment? Why am I here? What is the reason that I've been brought to this place at exactly this moment right now? And I'm like, I'm going to see what this is all about. And for the first day, I sat there, I had my arms crossed. I was so uptight. I'm like, got a jumper on. I'm wearing this really expensive watch and everybody's looking at me because I've got this watch. I've even got one guy comes over and he asks me if he can wear my watch. And I feel great because he's wearing my watch. And it's like, sure, bro, you can wear my expensive watch. I can be the successful one, you know. And I'm sat there and literally for the first day, I've got my arms crossed and I'm not moving. And then as the weekend goes on, I start to hear things. And I start to hear things that really resonate with where my current circumstances. Because if you remember early on in my story, I was sharing with you that my very first book was The Science of Getting Rich. And I literally became so obsessed about getting rich and being financially wealthy that nothing else came into my focus at all. I was tunnel visioned. I felt if I was able to make the money and I was able to provide and I was able to go out and have all the materialistic things and all the people saying to me how amazing I'd done in life, that was the value of it all. And I'm sat there listening to Tony, and there was a moment where Tony said something, and I've shared this with you before, Claire. But he says, he's going through his story, and he's talking about the science of achievement. He's talking about how we achieve things in life and how we can achieve things in life, and that focus can help us to do that. But then he also starts to talk about the art of fulfillment. And he says something that will stick with me forever. 4 words. I think it's 4 words. He says, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. It's not 4 words. It's 7 or 8 or 6. It doesn't really matter. He says, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. As I'm sitting there listening to that, this has kind of hit me square in the center of my head. In my brain has just gone boom. And it changed everything for me. Because in that moment, I'm like, wow, here's this guy on stage with what I class as success, what I look at. And he's telling me that there are thousands, if not millions of people out there right now chasing achievement. They don't feel deeply fulfilled. And they're feeling quite alone and quite sad and quite frustrated that somehow life hasn't met their expectations. And this is me. This is where I'm at. I'm sat there, I'm like, life hasn't met my expectations. I'm clinging on for hope. I'm wondering, you know, where I'm going to find my life from. At 17, I'd, made a decision at 17 that I didn't even want to live anymore. This is even before all of this had happened. 17, I'd one night decided I was going to take an overdose, and I'd woken up in hospital the very next day. And I just didn't enjoy my life. And then I got to Tony and I listened to what Tony said, and by the third or fourth day, I'm sat there, and every time Tony's playing the music, I'm jumping up and down, clapping, having fun. And I'm like, well, maybe there's more to life than what I thought there was. Maybe there is more to life than suffering. Maybe there's more to life than complaining and feeling like life isn't in my power and that I can't create my experience. Maybe I can do all of those things. And maybe all I needed was to see that it was possible and ask, what is possible for me?
Yeah.
And I came home from Tony's event, and I remember him saying that who you surround yourself with is so important. And I remember looking around me and looking around at people and just seeing lots of people that were in the same place that I once was, and wondering who it was that I could surround myself with that was going to keep me on a buzz, that was going to keep me high and keep me moving forwards and motivated and inspired. And I didn't see anything. And it was that point, Claire, where I literally decided that whatever it took, I was going to provide a space for people to connect and for people to understand themselves better, and then be able to go out into the world and live such an enjoyable life that it wouldn't matter what external circumstances were happening around us, that we could choose at any given moment to be grateful for what we had, but also be grateful for what is already on the way to us.
Yeah.
And I literally didn't know then that life would be so amazing as it is right now, in terms of the miracles that have unfolded and in terms of the journey to this place. Because at that moment, when everything had gone wrong, when I felt like everything had been taken away from me, when the money had disappeared for temporarily, when the houses were going, when my car was repossessed, when my girlfriend had decided that she wanted to break up, when my son had looked at me and said that he no longer wanted to be a part of my life. At that time, I was such a victim to circumstances, and I was feeling so low because I didn't realize that circumstances were still working in my favor at that point. And they've always been working in my favor. And literally, I would say that they are always working in all of our favor. What would you say about that, Claire?
Yeah, I mean, I had great resistance to being at home on my own. It was my worst fear. I went out for dinner with my girlfriends the Saturday before lockdown, and I expressed, my best friends, we do can together. I expressed my fear to them about being alone, and they were like, have you got a plan about your mum? You need a plan for your mum, because my mum's 80 this month. They were like, we've all got a plan for our mum. What's your plan for your mum? Sort that out. What about your kids? And, you know, and my greatest fear of being alone and feeling lonely and boredom, you know, every day is getting better. Every day is getting better because I have these tools in my life. And this enforced period of self-reflection for me. I know for many people it's not. For many people it's an enforced period of overwork. For many people it's an enforced period of stress. For many people it's an enforced period of poverty. For me, it is an enforced period of self-reflection because I have these tools, and because I know people like you, people like Palmer, people like Tom, and people like Jenny and James who have been on this week, then I can really see that the universe is working in my favour, actually. When would I have stopped if it wasn't for this?
Indeed.
And it turns out that I quite like my company, actually. And I've completely restructured my life. So this morning I did an hour of yoga teaching. Seven of us in the yoga class this morning, which is, you know, it's only my third week of teaching every morning. Then I did an hour with Jenny, you know, Jenny Shepherd.
Beautiful.
Our friend Jenny. So I did an hour with Jenny of So she does the miracle morning.
The
Or we
Hal
did,
Elrod. Yeah, Hal Elrod wrote the book, didn't he?
yeah,
Miracle Morning. Yeah.
yeah, which I now need to read. So we did
Mm,
10 minutes of purposeful silence, 10 minutes of affirmations, 10 minutes of visualization, 10 minutes of exercise, 10 minutes of reading, and 10 minutes of scribing.
mm,
Favors. And then I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. I've got to have a conversation with Ben. I've got coaching clients now since I stopped. I've got a newsletter to write for my yoga and coaching. Let's do this.
mm,
Whereas this day last week, I was completely lost, completely in the void.
mm.
Yeah, so yeah, I agree with you. That's a long way of saying that I agree with you. Yeah, yeah,
Thanks for sharing, Claire. It's definitely for me about trusting the process
yeah.
and falling in love with the process of becoming the best version of ourselves. And that means that being the best version of ourselves, to me, is the ability to be resilient in any situation.
Mm,
It's the ability to feel peaceful and calm, regardless of what's going on around us, regardless of the chaos that emerges. It's
yeah.
the ability to find the hidden blessings in
Mm,
everything that occurs in our life. You know, one of the very favorite quotes that I have is Napoleon Hill, and it's in the seed of every adversity there is an equal or greater benefit, along those lines.
yeah,
But we just have to look for it. And
yeah.
during my own personal journey, what has been shown to me along the way is that gratitude and finding the miracles in every morning, as you say, the miracle morning, remembering that we are blessed and understanding that even though things don't make sense right now in the moment, that we can't see clearly the dots connecting, but we can when we look backwards.
Mm,
And when I look backwards now, say from where I am here in this moment as a coach, as the founder of Shape Your Destiny. Also, we've got the support group for this thing during the time with self-isolation support. What
It's,
I've been,
it's a Facebook group, Self Isolation Sport.
that's a Facebook group that we started at the beginning of this whole situation with the social distancing. It's just designed to provide uplifting content and a place for people to connect and for
Brilliant.
people to share and for people to really talk to one another and, you know, share jokes, have a laugh, have fun. We have a quiz night in there. It's it's nothing heavy. We just want to provide a space. But what I've been shown on this path is that whether I once thought that I knew it all, I actually knew very little at all.
Yeah,
And where I once placed an importance on things that I felt were important, they are no longer that important to me now. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong. Having security in finances is important.
yeah, it is.
But but feeling like we need to constantly chase or strive or push against the grain, quite often that leaves us with a degree of suffering. And the
Mm,
very reason that Shape Your Destiny was created was because I have this personal mission that if anybody is out there going through suffering or through challenges, that I want to help them as much as I possibly can because I know what it feels like to suffer. I know
yeah,
what it feels like to look in the mirror and look at myself in the mirror and hate my face.
yeah,
I know what it looks like to be sat there alone at night and just want to end it all. I know
mm,
what it feels like to wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning and have such a debilitating anxiety attack that I can't leave the house. I know
mm,
these things. I've felt them. I've experienced them. I've got no shame in talking about them because
yeah,
we sit there and quite often we form these rules about how people should be or
yeah,
what people should do or what success looks like. And
yeah,
really, we come back to it. It's it's something we've been taught, and we can
mm,
change what we've been taught, and we can live in a different way, and we can create a different experience of life if only we prepare prepared and allow ourselves to be committed to a new version of ourselves that can emerge through any challenge. Every challenge comes along, and it comes along with the invitation for us as human beings to grow and expand and to find parts of ourselves that we perhaps have forgotten about, or find parts of ourselves that we have hidden away because we believe that that's not the way that we should be living life. For example, so many people have forgotten how to have fun. I was one of those people, you know. I used to walk around and I'd be in a suit and I'd have my watch on and I'd be stiff as a board walking around and I'd be a serious businessman. And if anybody interrupted me on the phone, they'd know about it because I was serious. I had to chase money and, you know, there was competitors out there and they were going to beat me and I had to be the best. And I'm like, but what did that do within me?
Yeah.
How did I feel during all that? And I see it often.
Yeah.
And when I see it, I'm like, is there a different way we can live? Is there a different way that we can create our life? And can we enjoy the process of becoming the best versions of ourselves and being proud of that person? Because we've overcome some of the difficulties. Take right now, for example, you know, what we call difficulties, some people call blessings.
Yeah.
What we call not having stuff, some people can only pray for that stuff.
Yeah.
And through this journey, when I was feeling like I was losing everything and everything was being taken away from me, the main learning that I took from this is that we can choose how we feel. We can feel something. We can feel anxious. We can feel depressed. We can feel lonely. But then from that place, it's like, well, do I want to stay there?
Yes.
And if you want to stay there, that's because you want to indulge in those feelings.
Yeah.
I felt lonely 2 weeks ago, and instantaneously in that loneliness, I was like, well, why do I feel lonely?
Yeah.
The reason I felt lonely is because I wasn't picking the phone up to call people.
Yeah.
I was saying I felt lonely because I didn't have any purpose in my life at this time. And then once again, the answers showed themselves because I was willing to trust that the answers would show up in exactly the right time that they show up. Like they have done many times before, like a chance conversation, our meeting, this conversation this morning. It's all unfolding perfectly if we allow ourselves to believe that. It may feel like a little bit of a white lie, but once you've told yourself that white lie over and over and over again, it becomes reality. And I've told myself that life is happening for me, not to me, over a million times. I've woken up every single morning for the last 5 years and said to myself, I am blessed, 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 every single morning for the last 5 years. Now, if you add that up, that's over 8,000 times that I've potentially said that to myself.
Yeah.
And this becomes our reality.
Yeah.
It becomes our reality because we choose for it to become our reality, right?
Yeah. The gratitude is a massive part of it, isn't it?
What we focus on expands.
Yeah. Like if I lose gratitude, I would very quickly feel like, for example, I have started delivering. This is me being very honest.
Please.
I've started delivering for our online shop. We've got an online shop which is a separate business. So fortunate. My son set it up. We've been getting lots of orders and we do free local delivery during lockdown. So I spent last week delivering every evening to our customers who, you know, I'm so grateful to them. And some of them live in the most incredible locations, in the most beautiful houses. And this was the beginning of my sort of struggle. Was I started to begin like to feel like I have failed at life because I was comparing myself to them. That's the truth. I was like driving around to all these beautiful houses in these stunning locations at sunset. That's when I chose to do it because it's a beautiful time of day. And I just started to tell myself I failed at life. Look what they've got, and look what I've got. And you know, if I lose that gratitude, then that's where I can go into this sort of downward spiral of, and it's not true. It's not true. Like, I'm very fortunate. So watching that thinking, like you're saying, watching that thinking and practicing gratitude.
Stopping that stinking thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Comparison is the thief of joy, isn't it?
It so is, and I know that as well. Like, I know all this stuff, but it's so easy to go there.
It definitely is. And
Yeah.
as I was talking to you about the story initially from where I started from as a child, and I said about having an above average empathy, one of the things that has really benefited me in the long term has been the ability to try and see the world through the eyes of another.
Yeah.
And we often compare ourselves to others and our circumstances to others, but we only compare the parts of us where we feel deficient. We say,
Yeah.
oh, that person's got more than me, or that person's got a better house than me, or they're doing better in business. But we never look at what's beneath the surface. We never look at whether that person is present with their loved ones or is really enjoying every single aspect of their life and is taking in the beauty of life around them. We only compare the areas where we feel like we are less than. And quite
Yeah.
often, we're only getting half of the human experience, because you can guarantee that people who are working 18 to 20 hours a day, they're not having the opportunity to spend time being with their loved ones and their children. You can guarantee that there is an element of stress that comes with that. You can guarantee that with the big house, there is big bills. And you can
Yeah.
guarantee that during this time, there are even more pressures in terms of dealing with those bills. So, you know, we
Yeah.
compare, and we only compare what we think, but we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. We see it through
Yeah.
our lens, and we see
Yeah.
it through what we perceive to be the world rather than the way that it really is. Because we're only getting a snapshot, and
Yeah.
quite often it's the way that it makes us feel that we operate from, firstly. And what
Yeah.
we now both know, Claire, is that feelings are just temporary visitors. And
Yes.
they don't stick around. What they do is they come along and they have a moment with you, and you feel that, and you're like, oh, what's that showing me? What's that teaching me? How can I use that? You know, where's that showing me that I could perhaps make a small adjustment in my life, maybe a 2 millimeter adjustment that is going to give me massive results? And it's like that little moment, and you can go there, but when you start to stay there, that's where it starts to become destructive.
Yes.
And we all know people. I was one of them. There's no judgment in this at all in what I say. I don't want to offend anybody who's watching. But we all know people, when you call them or they call you in the morning and you go, how's your day today? They go, all right. It's all right. It's fine. It's good. And I used to be that person. And now when people ring up and they go, how's your day? It's like, it's awesome. What a great day.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to be alive. Today is such an amazing day, packed with possibilities, and I can't wait to see what unfolds. If it's not today, it'll be tomorrow. And if I'm having a down day, then that's also cool, because I know that I am always enough and there's no need to criticize myself.
Yeah.
But this comes with an element of self-awareness.
Mm.
And the invitation is there for people to become more self-aware right now. Would you agree with that? That
Absolutely.
this whole situation, the
Yeah.
circumstances that we're all facing, we're all in it together. You know, some of us are in it more than others. You know, when you think about the nurses, the doctors, the care workers, the key workers, the patients, the families of the patients that are involved. But if that's not you, if you're not one of those people, and situation is actually your greatest blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah? Would you
Yeah. For
agree?
those of us who are stuck at home,
Yeah.
then like James said on Friday, when else are we going to get 6 weeks at home enforced? It's
Maybe
never going
one
to.
day.
It's never going to happen. And who do we want to be when we go out into the world in 6 weeks, or 8 weeks, or 10 weeks, or 12 weeks time? Who do we want to be?
Of
What do we
course.
want to be offering? how are we going to serve? Have you lost me?
No, you're still here. It went
All right.
quiet for the moment. I just thought it was a long pause. I'm sorry. I'm like, wow, that was powerful. I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to listen to that attentively and give it my full focus because this might just change my life if I listen carefully.
Yeah.
This
And
is
that's
what I
why I'm
was
doing
thinking.
this. That's why I'm doing this, because I want to learn. And because I love these conversations so much, I think there might be another person who benefits from this.
Well, how things changed for me were that I listened to these conversations and I had chance conversations that I thought were chance conversations, but they were always set up waiting for me. There was moments where I'd go to places and I'd bump into a friend or I'd be out in nature and I'd be watching the sunrise and I'd be having a thought as I'm doing that saying, wow, God's given me a second chance. At 17 years old, when I took my overdose, I might not have been here. I might not have survived. And the very
Yeah.
fact that I did survive means that I've been gifted this opportunity to share what I have experienced openly without feeling afraid, and hope that somebody out there who's listening is going to listen in such a way that they are able to see that perhaps the way that they've been thinking recently or even in the prior 20 years has been something that has held them back from living a life of true happiness, joy, and fulfillment. And also achievement in there, because achievement is a byproduct of happiness, joy, and fulfillment. If you love what you're doing, if you love who you're being, then you can't fail to be successful, right? If you
Yes.
are in that passion, every single day is a success. And I'm not one for climbing to the top of the mountain anymore. I'm one for stopping every 5 seconds and looking at the view as I walk to the top of the mountain and saying to myself, I'm just so grateful to be here. I'm alive. I'm breathing. Today is a great day. The people I have around me are phenomenal through the community, through Tony Robbins, yourself, Claire, some of the conversations that we've had. It
Yeah.
really really feels like a miracle to go through that process of once looking at life in a way which was so downhearted and so downbeat and
Mm.
felt so lonely and felt like there was a lack of purpose, to wake up and feel that sense of pride every single day and also know that you're out there impacting people, but also just the joy that comes from having these conversations. As we discussed
Yeah.
before we came on, I can't see your face today, Claire, because of the app. We were talking, we might as well share this. The app is supposed to show Claire and me on the picture, but I can't see your face today, Claire, can I? We spoke about this before. But what I
It's
can feel, I can feel the energy from you. So,
yeah.
you know, all I ask is if there's people out there that are listening and they're listening right now and they're feeling like they're alone, they're feeling like they're challenged. They're feeling like the way that they're experiencing their days is never going to end, and it's a feeling of pain and suffering. And there's things that are happening like anxiety and stress. That there is a way out, and the way out is to seek out this type of knowledge and wisdom. I once chose the way out that meant that there was no coming back, and I was very blessed to do that. I know that people right now are going to be feeling challenged.
Yeah.
And it's only normal to feel challenged when it feels like things have been taken away from us and it feels like we've lost freedoms or liberties.
Yeah.
Now, there's a great book, and I shared this book and I share it quite often. It's Man's Search for Meaning.
Mm.
The book by Viktor E. Frankl, and he was living in Poland during the war, Second World War, and he was actually taken prisoner by the Nazis into Auschwitz, and he was kept there as a prisoner of war, separated from his wife, his pregnant wife, and his friends. And in that process, what he did is he became somebody who realized that meaning is something that we are the masters and shapers of. We create the meaning. And we can create a meaning right now of everything's been taken away from us. I've got no freedoms. I'm lonely. And we can create a meaning of this is the next beginning of the rest of my life. And what I do right now in these 6 weeks, who I become in these next 6 weeks, I can use that for the rest of my life because it's going to show me just how grateful I am for those little things that I've been taking for granted quite often. Pick up the phone, speak to your family, speak to people that you've not spoke to for a long time, have conversations that are meaningful, and you deal with some stuff that maybe you've been not dealing with, because this is the perfect time to do it. Everybody right now is questioning what life is about. You know, if you're not busy right now, what are you doing? You're either living a mundane existence, or you're really starting to see that life can be more. You can have more. You can create more. If you just make that decision and that choice to get up and to see what is possible for you. And I'm so proud and blessed to be here with you, Claire, because we've been part of this journey together, and we both know that this is possible to do this, don't we?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I was in a bad space when I arrived at the Tony Robbins event, partly because my accommodation messed up, and I ended up sharing like a 2-bedroom flat with 8 women, and none of us had met before, and we didn't get much sleep, we didn't have a key, we didn't know whether we were going to get robbed in the night. It was like a big drama. And I got there exhausted and disappointed and paid all this money for this accommodation that I didn't have anywhere to stay that night. You know, had to sort out accommodation, and sitting there thinking, what the hell am I? I've paid all this money for this. And then suddenly realised, like, well, I've paid all this money for this. So I just got into it, and I learned so much over those 4 days. I mean, walking on fire was one of those things. That's the very least of it, isn't it?
We walk on fire every day of our lives, don't we?
It's symbolic.
It's that first step. Yeah, it's just the beginning. I mean, it's such a powerful experience, but literally, somebody's walking on fire might be getting up and going to get a shower. That might be walking on fire for that person. And when we recognise that each person's got their own unique challenges, it's easy to see how that metaphor translates. Yeah. I agree. Walking on fire, I was just like, give me some of those hot coals. But that was literally my biggest problem, was like, I'll just steam in and I'll do what I'm doing, and then afterwards I'll bear the consequences. Whereas now it's more of a conscious approach to living. And we all have different experiences of walking on fire, because we have those different experiences every day. Yeah. And this could work for anybody, couldn't it? These strategies, these tools, these things that we discuss, what we talk about, these things could work for absolutely anybody if they were willing to commit to that. Yeah.
We absolutely are anybody.
Yeah, there's nothing special about us, or, you know, we're not here to stand above and say we're teaching you something. This is about recognizing the greatness that lies within all of us, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, we're not special. We're not better. We don't know more. We've just heard stuff that's quite interesting,
and it works for us.
Love to share it with people because it works. Yeah.
It works. And one of the things that we both know about each other from being part of the team that sorts out the fire lanes is that one of the greatest gifts that we can have in life is being able to serve others.
Yes, absolutely.
Having the decision to be able to go out and make a difference to somebody, for me, whenever I'm feeling low or I'm feeling like a situation has come along that's challenging me, like numerous times in my life, the question comes into my mind of, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
And I'm obsessing with myself. And in that moment, realizing that in order to get out of our own self is to find a purpose bigger than ourselves and go beyond that. Yeah. And suffering is obsession with self. And I remember so many times sitting there and I'm like, why is it happening to me? This is not fair. How dare they take away my money and my liberties and I'm not getting paid this month, and I'd be crying about it and how this has
Yeah.
affected me. And then there'd be a split second moment and somebody would need my help, or there'd be a conversation and I'd forget about being the victim, and immediately I would be in my purpose and my passion.
Yeah.
And anybody who's struggling right now, look around you and see there's people out there that have got it so much more worse off than we have.
Absolutely
Find
are.
somebody like that and go and give them something, get served something, and that will change your entire experience of the day.
Absolutely. And how can people get in touch with you, Ben?
I'm always available for people who seek me out. There's always time and space available. I'm here on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. If anybody specifically wants to speak to me, Claire, they can ask you, and I'm there available for them. And I'll be around. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me.
Claire, you're amazing. I really appreciate the space you've created and the opportunity you've created to share and serve. I honor what you're doing, and as I said, I can feel your energy. So thank you so much for being that person.
Thank you. Have a fantastic day, Ben.
Stay blessed, Claire. Lots of love to you, and lots of love to everybody that was watching. Before we go, have we got any comments or anything, Claire, that we need to answer?
I'll have a look on my phone. Hang on. I have to look on my phone because you can't see the comments on the app.
Yeah. We'll get there. We're just doing our best with what we've got right now.
And then I have to turn the volume down. So, Jenny Shepherd says hi, guys. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Jenny.
James Singh says hi, both. Jenny loves success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And Jenny says it was a beautiful hour. Thank you.
Oh, very kind. Thank you, Jenny.
Both. And Emma says, thank you, guys. What a great conversation to be invited to hear. Yeah, that's the idea, is everyone is invited to the conversation. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Love you all.
It's really unplanned, isn't it? We don't plan anything. We just
that was completely spontaneous. It was like, hey, should we talk? And this morning we turned it on and we were like, let's talk and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Claire. You're amazing.
So great to talk to you, Ben.
And you, Claire. Stay blessed, everybody.
Bye, Ben.
Bye.
Bye.